Hello, anybody there yet? Dave? Yeah, hi. Hey. Is it Nick? Yep. How you doing, buddy? Good, how are you? Pretty good. Cool. I don't know why I can't see you. Maybe I have to order. Now it shows there's 3 here. Michael and Jenna, can either of you hear me? Might have to unmute him. Yeah, I'm working on that. No. That's weird. It says 3 attendees. Well, maybe. No, it's counting me twice. Okay. It's counting me as Rich twice. So, okay, it is really just me and you, Nick. Oh. So, I'm not going to say the word valor to you during this entire conversation because I don't want your blood pressure to go up too high. Thanks, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, that I have. I don't know exactly what you've been copying Rich on that and not. I haven't been paying that close attention to that part, but I did forward it to him, and he is aware that we really need some stronger protocols for what to do with these guys that just disappear and then all of a sudden come back and want us to recreate the wheel again. Right. I mean, he's a super nice guy, but he wants every single fact about mold remediation on his website. He stretched my giraffes literally 5 times longer than what they were. Oh yeah. See, and that's another thing. Hang on one second. Hey Jenna, I can see that you're on the line. I can't unmute you because you haven't entered your audio pin, or at least that's what they're telling me. I do know that I've had some frustrations entering. Oh, there you are. Oh. Okay. Wait, now I might be able to unmute you. Jenna, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Hi, Jenna. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. So I was just, Nick's on the line with us as well. Nick and I were discussing an issue with the client that he's had forever, who goes away for long periods of time, but then comes back with a vengeance and wants to like double the web copy and stuff. So that's what we're in the middle of. Nick, what I'd say also is that Rich and I have been going back and forth with what are we going to say is the standard word count for pages, and then it includes not just the home page, which we've always kind of had a rough target, but for inside pages too. Because my sense is that my word counts on my inner pages are less than yours, and so we need to figure out if I'm doing too little work or you're doing too much. And this is just a rough guess, okay? And then we need to also figure out what we do when someone like Valor comes back. Because I think we need to tell Valor a couple things. One is that you can start working, you can think you're giving them tons of information, but you can start working against yourself with that too. You know, maybe we need to break out some extra subpages then or something like that, but put 1,000 words, 1,500 words on something. How long can you make that stuff interesting? You know, and think. I mean, we want the information up there. So what I'm saying is we are going to a place where we're going to have standards on that, and you'll have ground to stand on that with the client on 2 fronts. One, we can just kind of, as consultants, as the consultant part of our jobs, we can tell them, hey, you know, we recommend this word count, and this is why. Now, we might have some internal give where you or I can, or whoever, any of the copywriters can have the ability to say, we can have the ability to make exceptions, but even within those exceptions, we kind of know what the general guideline. And if it's going even past those, you know, you're getting into way up there with the word counts or things are getting ridiculous, then that's when we need to involve Judy or Rich or something and say, you know, we need help explaining to this client what the rules of the road are. Rich really wants to get to the point where we have clearly spelled out what each page count is. I got one from Renee when I was still kind of involved there. Well, actually, it came in a roundabout way because Don was saying some of the ways some of the copywriters submit copy. It just makes it very, very hard on the designers. Because if it's a lot of copies for the designer, they don't know how to break it up exactly. And they don't, you know what I mean? And I saw this page from Renee, and it's just crazy long. I'm like, you do not need to be doing this. First of all, I don't even think it's effective. But on second, it's just crazy long. You know, and that's not helping anybody. It's not helping the client. It's not helping Renee. It's not helping our productivity. So all these things are going to be a little bit standardized. In the meantime, you know, with Valor, I would just, where you think it's reasonable to just take what he did and just shape it just a little bit more, if that's going to get approval, then go ahead and do that. And if he then comes back and says, oh, I want to do this on top of that, then I think we need to have, you know, maybe even Rich personally or Judy go in there, or possibly me, whatever, and say, okay, we're having a little trouble with scope here, and not only that, really, you're just delaying your website for no reason, you know.
Yeah.
Whatever nice way we need to say that, but
I think he'd be responsive to that because, like I said, he's one of my nicer clients, and he realizes when he comes back with a vengeance that he is doing so, and he's putting all this extra work on my plate. But you know, he's not doing it to be a dick or anything like that. This is how he is.
Yeah, no, I understand. All right, so that was just kind of a side tangent we got off on, based on the fact you were on the call first. But I did want to go over just a couple of things today. And one of them is this template for MYM client website site plan. Nick, you have this, right? The newer one from Rich?
Yes.
Called it for 2014. Do you have this?
Right.
Yeah, and Jenna, do you have this one too? The actual template?
I do. Yeah. That's
Okay,
fine.
yeah, I think you did one for me for Johnson Home Construction. Okay, so I've reviewed a couple of these for folks, and I've also done a couple of these, and I just want to go over a couple of things of how we want to do this. Now, Rich is also tinkering with this a bit because he's realizing that by not locking down things past the ID point and not being crystal clear with the client on exactly what pages they're entitled to and a pretty good idea of how long they're supposed to be, we're getting into gray areas that aren't helping us. So understand that he may be tinkering with this a bit, but I think everything I'm going to say about this will still be relevant no matter what he says. One thing I want you to remember is that Rich put some notes up here at the top that we want to make sure that when we actually create one customized for the client, that we're thinking about how this looks to the client, okay? We've got to make sure, first of all, we should put, instead of MYM client, we should actually put their name, okay? And then we need to get rid of things like the outline below should be considered a starting point. I don't want them thinking this is a starting point. I mean, it is and it isn't. I want to pretty much present this as, hey, here's our expert recommendation. Don't you think it's good? You know, that is the attitude we want to take. So that's when we introduce it, send the email about it, and ask for approval. That's what we want to have. We want it to be like that. Now, that doesn't mean we won't ask them for feedback, but we don't want to necessarily invite them to make changes because then they're going to look for stuff to do. We want to make it clear that we're ready for feedback, but not be too solicitous of that, if you know what I mean. So those first two sentences should always be deleted off of the one you provide to the client. then when it comes to the next stuff, I've also seen some where we're leaving the words workmanship, bedside manner, big differentiator, financing, and even some of the notes that Rich has made after that on the site plan. I think that's a mistake. What we want to do is, why choose us? We can usually use that formulation, but then underneath that, workmanship might be the right word, but it also may be our process or something specific to the client. And bedside manner, we're almost never going to want to use that. We may want to highlight their no sales pressure, so call it no sales pressure. Call it whatever the page should be if you're a prospect searching their website and looking for that. Do you guys get what I'm saying here? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
you think for the bedside manner thing, it would be better to dedicate the page to just one of those items, such as no sales pressure, or their communication, or their problem resolution, or their fast turnaround, things like that?
Partly. I don't have a problem with us doing an umbrella page that covers bedside manner, but unless the page is going to be called bedside manner, that's not what you should label it. Do you see what I'm getting at? So, in my opinion, now there may be clients where that's appropriate for it, but I'm saying we have to remember that this document is two things. One is it's what the client is seeing and having to interpret and trying to visualize and imagine their website with these list of pages. But the second thing is it's going to be passed along to Dawn, and whatever word you use there is what word Dawn's going to put on the website itself. So if bedside manner is the right word for what you're going for, then that's fine. But for me, for most of my clients, I'm going to put something more specific there. And then there's same with the big differentiator. That's not what you're going to call it. You're going to call it whatever you really want to highlight is, right? And you're going to delete that which of the above do you really want to highlight, and then financing. Now, here's another thing. This is me, and I don't know. Rich might throw something at me if he heard me saying this, but I don't know that. You got Why Choose Us, which is going to be a general introduction page to this whole section, right? Which is I was going to assume you're going to have to touch on something, and one of those is going to have to be, the differentiator or the bedside. You're going to have to touch on something there. So you got that page already. Then you're going to go to workmanship, and their big differentiator may be their workmanship. So then you're going to try and cover it on the third page. That may not work. So you may need to you need to think through on the Why Choose Us section what each of these pages is going to be and why. And one of them may need to go away. Because what I'm saying is on Why Choose Us page, the main page, you're probably going to say something about their big differentiator as well as other things. Then they got workmanship, and then, like I said, if that is also you're covering like the same thing on 3 different pages. I don't know about you, but I can't do that. There's just not enough different things. So we want to use this section as a good guide, and if we can get 5 pages out of it, page 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. If we can get all those out of it, that's fine. Certainly, everybody should have a Why Choose Us, or at least almost every case. Certainly, everybody should have financing, and certainly everyone should have 2 and possibly 3 of all those other things. But you just need to pull those out. I think we know that in most of these ID conversations, enough different things come up that we can come up with stuff. But we got to figure out how that's going to work for the client, and not just say, well, here's the template, client, and here's all the notes that Rich left in here, and I'm not really thinking through what the name of these web pages are going to be, even though down the line that's going to cause a problem, both in the client maybe being confused when they review it, and even more so when then Dawn goes to actually name the page and put this together. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the next thing is the services. We just need to be careful here too that if the service is remodeling, comparisons, styles, colors, gallery, and FAQ don't all make sense, do they? I mean, certainly gallery makes sense and FAQ makes sense. That can pretty much make sense with almost every service. But styles and colors for remodeling, it doesn't really work. You're gonna have to change that to product selection or something, like how they handle the process of selecting the products, for whatever particular remodel they're doing, or something else. But we can't just leave it as remodeling, styles and colors, which I've seen. We need to make it make sense for whatever particular product or service it is, and even comparisons. I'm not sure. I can see ways to make that work with remodeling, but it's not the same as comparisons for, say, windows, where if they're a fiberglass window, you can do, the quick guide to fiberglass versus vinyl or something like that. Comparisons makes more sense there, and other things maybe not as much, and we've got to come up with something else. Do you see what I'm saying about this? I'm just trying to make sure that when we use this template, we're using it, but we're also thinking through how it fits in for any particular client. Like I said, I do know there's going to be a decent amount of emphasis from Rich on making this a blueprint, because Don has been having some problems with how some stuff is submitted, and as we were just talking about, we're having some problems sometimes with clients. Not really. We need to nail them down on exactly what we're doing before we start it, as far as the website goes. So I just want to make sure that we use this document in the right way. Nick, I was going to ask you on reputation. Do you usually have 3 sub-pages, and if so, what are they? How do you usually handle that?
It depends. Some clients don't really have a lot of different companies, like AndyList, Better Business Bureau, whatever else, Guild Quality. If that's the case, they usually just write one reputation page, maybe like a testimonial page too. I've actually had clients that, I've written sub pages, and he says, well, we don't really need a Better Business Bureau page. So, I don't know, it kind of depends on the client. There's, how many different, whatever, I can't talk right now. However many different businesses they're affiliated with, I guess.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Hey, Michael, I see you joined us. Can you hear me? You're self-muted.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, there you are. Okay. How are you doing, Michael?
Doing well. Am I on mute? Yeah, I'm doing well. I think this mute button isn't working quite well, but
Okay.
doing well. I just had some trouble. Wasn't connecting, but I'm in now.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, anyway, we're going through this website site plan. Hopefully, you've seen some of it. The basic thing that I'm asking people to do is to go ahead and think through what they're actually putting down on here, because it will be the template both for exactly what we're going to do for the client. This is kind of our subcontract with them on exactly the pages we're going to do. Because, Nick, I don't want that to happen to you anymore, where you're writing up a page and then they say to you, we don't need the Better Business Bureau page. Well, if we have an approved site plan and it said Better Business Bureau page on it, and you did Better Business Bureau page, and they say, well, I don't really need one, well, that's fine. They don't have to have it on their site. But guess what? We're not going to write a 26th page to make up for that. You see what I'm getting at? So, I mean, that's the way it should be. They should approve this, and once it's approved, that's what it should be. Now, I mean, could there occasionally be a little bit of wiggle room there on a misunderstanding or something? Okay, maybe. But then, if they do it again on another page, well, then that's when we have to say, well, and that's what I'm really trying to get to is, hey, maybe here and there, we all know sometimes maybe there has to be a slight bit of bend. But if we have the rules and they know the first time we're bending the rule, then when they go again to try it again, like double the copy, or, oh, I didn't want this page or this page or this page, but guess what? I just decided I want this, and this. Well, that's getting outside the scope. We'll be glad to do that, but there's going to be a charge for that. So that's what I'd really like. As far as reputation, just to kind of piggyback on what you said, Nick, I think for most clients, you can do a main reputation page, which should be fairly brief, has some headlines, and then a little bit about the reputation, and then really just basically links to the other three sub-pages. And typically, for most clients, I can squeeze out testimonials/reviews page, whichever they want to call it, a references page, which granted most of our clients do not do what Rich recommends, which is to post the references actually online. But we can always do a page that says, well, we can almost always do a page that says, hey, we've got references and we're proud to give them to you. How many do you want? Or, we make it easy. And some of my clients will tell me, that's fine, but just tell them we'll give them to an appointment. I don't want you saying that they can request them before the appointment. Some tell them they can request them anytime. Some tell me, yeah, hey, it is okay to post them. But any way you look at it, almost all of our clients are fine with references and want to be known as somebody who gives references freely. So there's no reason we can't write a page to say that. And if you go into the MYM library, you'll find that. In fact, I'll quickly run you through a few examples of that. And then the last page that I usually do is associations and accolades. As Nick pointed out, not every client can meet that, and if you got somebody who's fairly brand new, that can be tough. But most of our clients have A+ ratings with the BBB. Most of our clients are certified through somebody for something that we can do. A lot of them have won things, however minor or major. A lot of them belong to their local business bureau. Their local chamber of commerce, excuse me. So there's rarely, or maybe rarely is the wrong word, but it's definitely a minority of clients that don't have something that we can flesh out an associations and accolades page. If you have to make that mainly about their Better Business Bureau rating because they don't have a lot of other things, then do that. But so I would normally recommend that we do reviews, references, associations and accolades with a main reputation page. Also, partly, I think it's good for the client because those pages are important, and I also think they're good for us because they're fairly easy to write compared to most pages, at least my experience. But here's the other thing about this. Let's make sure that we're actually typing that out, not leaving a reputation subpage one. Let's make it clear for the client, because we're asking them to use this as a specific approval document. Then let's make sure that we're actually doing that, that we're spelling out for them exactly what we're saying the pages should be. The next thing is gallery on here. In most cases, I just want you to delete the case studies thing under there, okay? I agree with Rich, those are great things, and if they come up, they come up. But for right now, I think it's mostly let's just see if we get the gallery done. And you don't really have to write anything for that. And then the main FAQ page, I do usually write something after to let the client know, hey, this is separate from the FAQs I was recommending above for services. Okay? Here's another thing I do a little differently than what's listed on here. The next thing down is about us, contact, key personnel profiles, price quote. Okay, most of the guys that I work with, most of the clients I work with, do not do the personnel profile. So ask them that, and if it's not, just delete that off. But I do separate about us and contact us, because those are two separate pages. It should say about us, and then the next thing should be contact us, and then the third one should be price quote, which is like another form of the contact us page, but it's for someone specifically asking for a contact page. For an estimate. So it's a specific kind of contact that they are clicking through to. So by doing that, you're getting 3 pages there: about us, contact us, and then the price quote one. And then if they want to have personnel profiles, then that's another one under there. So that's how I would normally handle it. If they've ordered extra pages, or they don't have some stuff up top, like maybe they only have one service and they need other things, Rich has given us some other things that we can recommend. But here's the thing about this, okay? You've got to put those under some category. You can't just say other common page types. The website's not going to say other common page types. It has to have something under. So showroom should probably go under About Us if they have a page about their showroom. Special sales might go under there too. Report downloads page, that could go under About Us. It could also maybe go under whatever service category would be appropriate. But the point, the overall point I'm trying to make with this is that we need to think about how this looks from the client's point of view when they're approving it, and how we're making sure it's specific for them and thinking it through, and also thinking through how it's going to look to Don when he gets it. Is he going to be able to read this in a way that's going to allow him to easily structure the site based on this without having to come back to us and say, what is reputation subpage 2? You know, that should already be changed to reviews, and he knows exactly what reviews are. Is this making sense, guys? Is that helpful?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And then you'll see at the bottom here, Rich has put some website FAQs. I have taken, I double check and make sure, you know, there's nothing in here that for that particular client that really doesn't make sense, but pretty much I leave those on there. It starts, hopefully we're going to get to these expectation things a little earlier with the clients as far as how long stuff takes, but this is another way to reinforce that, okay, without having to maybe irritate them personally. So, sorry, I'm scrolling up too much here. So you can kind of look through there and see the FAQs there. That could also help you as you're answering client questions for the newer folks on the call. You guys have any questions about the site plan for me?
I don't think so.
So, the next thing I want to do is I just want to, hopefully this is going to work. This is one of my, okay, and they messed this up because it was right before and now they have the headlines going over people, so don't worry about that. But, this site here, so let's just use this as an, oh, darn it. This was all done. What did they do? You know what? I wonder. Okay. I think, you know what they did? They changed what the actual web address is. This is an old one. This is not the newer one. Darn it. Okay, that's okay. Let me see who else I can pick on here. Okay. So, let's take a look here. Hopefully these are okay. Okay. So here, everybody see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's an example of the references thing. Okay, references page. And you can see it's pretty straightforward. I mean, that's not a lot of words, right? Now it takes me some time to think these up, to think through these things a little bit, because we can't use the exact same stuff for Google reasons. I can't make this my exact thing for every company, because even though it would apply to most companies, you don't want, we just can't have the exact same copy. But what I'm trying to point out here is I didn't really go into great depth with the customer about what do you want for your references page. I pretty much asked them how they take references and you know, when they would be okay with giving them to them, and then I just write the page. Sometimes they come back to me and say, hey, I'm not comfortable with this phrasing, and usually it's a one sentence fix that takes me about 5 or 10 minutes. What I'm trying to encourage you to do is not let waiting for the client on some of these pages slow you down, and simply just go ahead and do the pages. Once once we have the approval. If you wait for them to tell you, oh, I want this on some of these pages, you're going to be waiting forever. So just go ahead and do them. And then again, here's the testimonials page. Look at how much copy I had to do. This is it, that top box part to the gray line here. That's all I had to write for testimonials. And then I wrote, here's what our customers say about us. From there, it's up to them to get us the testimonials. Clearly, he hasn't done that yet. But that's it. That's all you have to do, and the testimonials page is done. Okay? Or the reviews page. Now, are there some clients where we have to type up about their guild quality and link to guild quality? Yeah, there are some that we have to do that for. But we don't have to make this really, really complicated. We can just write, hey, introduce the testimonials. That's basically all you have to do. Okay? Here's associations and accolades. Okay? Right? There's not really a lot here. Okay? Better Business Bureau, whoop-de-doo, everybody's got that. NARI certified, that is a little bit different, and it's a little bit more than I would normally go into, but he was kind of into it, so I did it. And then I said they're exclusive providers of. I mean, it's not really much of an accolade, right? I mean, it kind of is, because some of these are good products, and some of them, the manufacturers do make you do jump through a few light hoops to get to be these kind of dealers. But that's it. I mean, so I've made a association's accolade page out of BBB, NARI certified, and exclusive providers. You can find this on most people's websites, and we're just changing it around a little bit and making a bigger deal about it by making some decent headlines. Okay? There's nothing really all that special about this, and when I look at this, I'd say to myself, hey, probably could have done some better headlines. I was probably doing the best I could at the time, but even so, I think it's acceptable quality and looks good and gets the message across. So, do you guys see what I'm getting at, especially Jenna and Michael, that some of these sections are really not that difficult. And you need to go in and look at these examples, and then we can just start banging these out for some of the clients. Is that understood?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, all right. Don't overcomplicate things when we don't need to. Here's another example. Okay, this is the financing page. I want you to go through these library of pages and see what we do, but there's not a ton to it. We just want to give them the idea, hey, we make financing easy. We're here to help you. Tell them a few points about that. This is how Can't Afford It becomes That Was Easy. Okay, simple. And then some paragraphs about that. Hey, Nick, how do these compare to the pages that you do for your clients for these? Are you on a similar word count? Or are you trying to do more, do less, do different pages? Give me a little perspective on that.
No, I do pretty much the same thing you do. These aren't very intensive pages.
Yeah. So, Nick, I know this is a little bit elementary for you then, although I do sometimes find that when me and you, who've been here the longest, sit and compare, sometimes we find we're doing things differently when we probably don't need to be. So that's one of the reasons for this. But I also just want to kind of show Jenna and Michael that knocking out some of these pages is not that hard. It still takes some thought and some work, and you're rewriting. Sometimes part of the work is just figuring out how to try and say it a little bit differently this time. That almost gets to be the harder part than anything else for some of these pages. But so what I'm trying to do is just give you an overall view of how this stuff links together. We start with that. We get the ID done, then we get the site plan done, and that locks us into exactly what we're going to do. And then we start figuring out how to do the pages. Okay? And that's going to kind of bring me to, I have one other small thing after this that's kind of related, but it's kind of bring me to my final thing about for today, which is, and this is specifically for Jenna and Michael, is that one thing you got to realize is that a lot of what we're doing here is you have these pages that need to get done, We have the examples. You have me as a resource to ask questions. But once we start getting into, and Jenna, you've got started getting into this a little bit more than Michael has, because you've got some more existing clients than he does. But Michael, as soon as we get these ID approvals, this is going to start for you. Some of this is going to be you guys taking this by the horns and saying, okay, I just looked at 4 different MYM websites with the financing page. I should be able to write the financing page. I just looked at 3 different window pages that cover fiberglass windows from MYM. I should be able, with this plus what's available on whatever the manufacturer's website, plus our conversation with the client, plus anything the client has sent me about this, I should be able to put this page together. Do you see what I'm saying? There's not going to be anybody waiting to show you exactly how to do these pages. You do them, you send them to me for review, and I'll give you some pointers, and then we're ready to send them to the client. So I want you guys to just go ahead and grab this and move forward with it. Does that make sense? The point I'm trying to make there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's entrepreneurial. It's just like what you did with your own clients before that. You have to realize that we are working within a certain style, and yes, we're trying to get to the point where we're more clearly defining word counts and what's expected for each type of page. But for now, and also even as you go into the future, there's the dealing with the client and figuring out what they're gonna like and how does it fit in with their overall identity and messaging. I mean, Nick, let me ask you this, Nick. Do you find when you write pages for clients, particularly stuff that's a little more specific, like product pages and stuff, that there's some clients just from the feel of the ID call that hey, they're not going to let me say that, but they would be happy if I said it this way. Do you find that? Yeah. So again, this goes back to a little bit of the entrepreneurial aspects of our jobs in that you got to make those judgments, okay? Because otherwise you'll drive yourself crazy. It doesn't mean you're going to make the right judgment every time. Sometimes I still have a client said, no, I don't want it said that way. But just from conversation, you pick up, they're willing to go this far, and this client, no, they're not willing to, or that's going to be a flag for them. Like Johnson Home Construction that Jen and I were working on, he did not like that I used the word perfect. He liked his ID a lot, but I'd use perfect, I think, in the slogan or something, and maybe a couple other places. And he's like, I don't like that word. And I understand it because it can boomerang on you because then, what is really perfect? Other clients are, not to be funny, are perfectly happy to use perfect. They are, that's fine with them. It's a strong word and it's a great word to be able to use the right way in certain situations, but some clients just aren't going to accept that. And I understand that. I don't know if I was a contractor, I'd want that word flying around out there either to be thrown back at me in certain situations. But there's not going to be any. You've got to go ahead and start making sure that with all the things that we tell you about and do it this way and do it this way, you have to understand still a large part of this is just figuring out ways to get from point A to point B and get these pages done in a professional, well done way. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Lastly, this is the kind of the last thing I want to go over. When I drew this up, right? We had some the SCs that are experienced here had a lot of different thoughts about this, and so you guys kind of came into the tail end of that discussion, or at least we're kind of coming into it without a lot of context. I still think that this is what we need to be shooting for, pretty much at a minimum, as what we want to try and complete. And some of the half-day stuff I would probably take back at this point. I think half-day for pre-positioning emails and appointment sheet's really nothing. So basically a half-day for pre-position is still probably a fair assessment. But if someone said to me, I don't know, took me 3/4 of a day, that's fine. And the About Us page, as Nick has pointed out to me, probably maybe closer to a day in certain cases, because depending on what you're doing for it, can be a little bit more challenging. But what I want to get to is, and Jenna, this is especially for you, only because Michael doesn't have like the bail home services and other things that have been handed to you from Rich.
Right.
To do. This is what you need to be shooting for on a daily basis. Setting yourself a goal to get these, and then at the end of that day or at the end of the week, sending that to me so I can review it. And again, this is part of just taking control. Okay, what could I do today, that I don't need to wait for the client? Or if I do need to wait for the client, have I sent the email requesting the information or requesting a quick phone call to talk through the Windows section of their website or something like that? You can set that up. If you need my help on the call, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, then that's fine. But, I'm here to help you. But what I want to do is, hey, here it is. This is what we need to be doing. Are we doing this? Are we able to get this copy done? I'm not saying when you're starting out doing a batch of product pages, one batch would be Windows main page, Windows FAQ, Windows styles and comparison, Windows, which actually isn't very much copy, the Windows styles and comparison, and Windows styles and options, which isn't very much, and maybe Windows comparison. That might be a lot for you to accomplish in one day when you're starting out, because FAQs can get a little bit draggy sometimes. I understand that, but as an overall goal, we need to be coming, if we're not hitting this, we need to be coming close. And as for the identities too, I'd like to see those, done in a day usually. Now I understand they're not going to be perfect yet, but at least get them done and filled out, okay? And get them to me so I can take a look. The truth of the matter is, for a little while, I'm probably going to be rewriting some of this anyway. So I don't want you to slop through it, but basically, when Nick and I came on, it was like, here it is, figure it out. And as tough as that is sometimes, it also is very helpful, because when you're forced to say, okay, well, if this was my own individual client, independent of MYM, that had hired me, would I figure out a way to get it done? The answer is yes, I would. And that's what we need to do. We need to say, okay, we've got, and you guys have the advantage of A, having us as resources, and B, having all those examples of actual filled out websites, which I think when Nick and I started, what did we have, Nick? Like one site builder site to look at? If we were lucky?
Couple, maybe two.
Yeah. Yeah, so all those examples are out there. I don't want you to copy them exactly. I think I've said that enough times. But I do want you to, those resources are just sitting there. And like I said, I would have loved to have had those, to have. So you definitely want to use those as resources and say, okay, I'm at point A with this client. I have an approved website site plan. How do I get to point B, which is all this copy done and approved? And that's the way you got to look at it. And one of the ways to get to point B is say, okay, well, here's a website that's already at point B. So if I do something close to this, we're going to be good. Is that helpful to you guys? Is that making sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. That is all the rambling I have in me today. What questions, problems, issues do you guys want to discuss at all? Anything? I'll take that as everybody's pretty good.
This is Mike. I think I leverage those websites constantly to understand, because I don't fully grasp this concept yet. So I'm very appreciative of those resources.
Okay, very good. Good. So you're working working on today, you're going to work on finishing off the Twin Cities one for me.
Yeah, and then you wanted me to get a run at Clark as well.
Yeah, and then you get a run at Clark. So between today and Monday, let's have a fully completed one for Twin Cities today and a start on Clark, and then a fully completed one for Clark on Monday. Okay? I'm going to be honest with you, Michael. I'm kind of working on some of these parallel to you, and then I kind of want to mash them up together.
Okay.
But one of the, and I'll kind of show you what I did and why I did it, and then we'll go from there. We'll figure out the best solution. But even the Twin Cities, you found something on that integrity award that I didn't really explore enough with them on their website that's helpful to me that I think I'm going to use in my version. So, but I don't want you to think I'm just giving you busy work. It's important that you push yourself to finish these things, even though, it's a struggle and you probably kind of feel like a little disoriented trying to put all this together and fill it out in that template form and do all that. But I want you to do that because every time you do it, you're going to get more comfortable with it and you're going to get more confident with it. And so I want you to do that. And like I said, it's helpful to me because I can kind of see where your ideas are and say, okay, what can I use? What can I, what can I improve on my end on these? And then we come up with something that we can submit to Dawn and get this to the client. Okay?
Perfect. Yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate it, even if it was, more viewed as a resource and practices. I'm very happy to be doing it.
Yeah. I just, like I said, and what the overall thing I'm trying to get across, the theme of this webinar, if you will, is get those. The site plan becomes your template for the hardest part of this, which is to get the websites done and written. That's the hardest part. So once you have that, I want you to get used to being comfortable getting a well-done site plan done that the client can understand and approve and that Dawn will be able to understand. Then you have your map. Then you have your roadmap for this entire process for that client. And then you're like, okay, like I said, here's point A. Point A is that plan. Point B is the actual copy done and approved. What do I do? And by forcing yourself to start with the ID and get those done, even though it's like a lot of different things. Oh, I got to do an inner box. Oh, I got to do the headlines. Oh, is this how Rich would write the body copy? I got to do slider headlines. How am I going to fit these in? I understand. Everything's like, oh, I got to think that through. Oh, I got to think this through. But I want you to push yourselves to do that, even if you feel like at certain points you're floundering. I still feel like I do it. Yesterday, I was working on the Twin Cities one a little bit parallel to you, and I'm like, what am I writing today? What is this? So, but you got to kind of push yourselves to get through that, okay? And Jenna, the DexRS one, am I going to see a final version of that today?
Yep, I've been working on it. I'll get it sent over.
Okay. And one last thing is, Jenna, Michael, I'm going to send you a version of I'm going to forward you an example of a weekly report that we do. I don't know if either one of you have been shown that yet. And then I want you to put your clients in there, and then I want you to use that template and do a version for your own clients with it. Jenna, you'll have more because you already have some assignments to do and things that have gotten done, like the pre-positioning emails for
Right.
I'm forgetting his name now.
For Mike Drive.
Yeah, so you'll be able to do things like that, but it'll also kind of give you an idea of where you're at and what you need to do. So the daily reports are required every day. If you had a bad day, then put I had a bad day and this is all I got done, whatever. But I need a daily report every day. And then the second thing is now we're going to add the weekly client report, which you're going to want to do. I don't care if you do it Friday or Saturday or Sunday, but just so it's in my inbox by Monday morning, just with an update of where your clients are. There are some clients that you won't have done anything for that week. They're still going to be on the report, but when you go to do the next report, it'll be easier because the client information will be in there, and you'll either leave it as is if you didn't really do anything that week, except for you could put like it always asks what did you do this week for this client, no activity on this client. Then you put but all the information's there, so you're simply just updating it. Okay?
Okay.
All right. I will forward you those weekly reports, Jen and Michael, so you have it. Last call for any questions or any issues or anything.
We're good.
All right. Okay, guys, thank you. Send me questions. Keep me updated with reports. And Nick, we'll talk a little bit more about Valor if we can get a chance and see what you can do to satisfy him and keep that moving, I guess.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk to you.
Thank you.
Yep, bye.
Thanks so much for now.